Ozannes is a full service law firm, and that's by a conscious decision. We've got a small but buoyant private client practice because we live in a small community. So that's quite important for us, because even though most of the commercial fee generating work comes from the corporate department and the commercial department, we're still very keen on retaining, as I said, a high street practice for the little lady who lives down the road. However, the investment funds practice within the corporate department is a huge, or has a huge part of it, for the simple reason that there's been an enormous growth of the funds industry on Guernsey, as you know, and as everyone knows, which has generated more and more work, which has probably taken over, only in terms of launches, but if you think in terms of restructuring, in terms of acquisitions, in terms of private equity work, corporate work, which emanates from the setup of the structure, so that the funds industry has generated a huge growth in terms of legal work, not only in the establishment but the ongoing work that's required for those structures. So it is a very, very large part of the corporate department, and the corporate department is a very, very large part of Ozannes as a firm. Well, Guernsey has developed a very strong reputation and body of experience and expertise over an inflection of time for a very simple reason. 20 years ago, when most of the structures that used to come to the Channel Islands were very much retail-based products, the UCIT type of products, the authorised collective investment schemes, except they were set up offshore, etc. Jersey was that much bigger than us, and therefore really cornered that area of the market. So by default, because Jersey were attracting the more blue chip and larger organisation, which generated, albeit on a much smaller scale than these days, these retail funds, by default Guernsey had to attract something else, and therefore opened the doors to the non-retail, more alternative type of product. And therefore we had a clear period and a clear lead, in my view, of about 15 years, where we were able to develop a degree of expertise and experience in the alternative type of products, which meant that when the retail products pretty much disappeared from the offshore financial centres, by the European ones of course, and the alternative had a huge growth, we were very, very well positioned, not only in terms of time where we'd had a period of 10, 15 years to actually establish and understand those structures, but also the regulatory framework, the comfort that our regulator had in terms of appreciating and agreeing to those types of structures, but more importantly the degree of expertise and experience that the back office people, and primarily the most important being the fund administrators in Guernsey, had really developed to understand those types of product, the nature of those products, but also the requirements for the administration of those products and the investor as well as the client expectation. So based on that, Guernsey developed as a centre of excellence for the products such as the private equity, the fund of hedge funds, the very large listed property funds, which still go on, albeit at a slight slower pace. But we had a 10-15 year lead upon which we could build an experience which was very much recognised, and therefore Guernsey became the natural home for those more alternative type of products because of the inflection of time and the fact that we'd done it for so long. Well, all of them are. I don't think we want to put a category as to which is the most important, but you really have to look at it as what is the flavour of the month or the day or the year, because obviously with what's going on in the current climate, and not just at the present, but obviously what's gone on over the last 5 years, when you had certain classes of assets which either appreciated or depreciated, there's always been an opportunistic reason for managers, and therefore we do every type of funds in Guernsey, and I think we'll come on to that, which is very much due to the flexible approach that the whole island, and I include the whole office, back office administration, regulator, etc., has in terms of accepting any type of product that comes through. So we haven't really nailed our colours to the mast in one particular type of fund, because that would be a bit detrimental to do so, but we really have a high degree of specialisation, and we actually have different service providers who deal with a particular type of alternative structures, but that doesn't mean that we just only do those. It just means that we have a high degree of specialisation, but yet we do everything that comes through the door. Well, very few. I think it's very difficult to break the mould of, just like it would be very difficult to break the using as an example the Guernsey private equity mold, it's very difficult to break the Caribbean mold for the setup of the hedge funds. Now, obviously, what's going to happen in the future, we'll have to wait and see, and whether the climate has actually changed that. But no, Guernsey is not known for being a domicile for hedge funds, purely and simply because we don't have the same type of approach to hedge funds as, say, the Caribbeans do, and also with a lot of the majority of the hedge funds, which are probably the smaller ones with single managers setting up and trying to deal a track record, it is always preferable for them to follow the well-trusted route of the Caribbean rather than try and come somewhere else where their advisor will probably say it's easier to go, to go to the Caribbean. Well, the industry and the regulator have always worked hand in hand, and that's one of the very good points of Guernsey in trying to ensure that the regulatory and legal framework for funds in Guernsey matches the expectations, but yet without selling the family silver short. So I do think that there may be an impact on Guernsey, but a very positive impact on Guernsey in light of the increased desire to regulate certain types of products, and I extend from the banking on the financial institutions. Because if that is to proceed, then obviously Guernsey is not seen as a complete hold-off or no handheld jurisdiction. We've always been very well recognised of having an incredibly flexible, a good, but certainly not an over-regulatory system. So by virtue of having this regulatory framework, which is not overburdensome, which is incredibly flexible, but it's not just a place of registration, it may place us very well in the coming few months if there is indeed a desire outside of Guernsey to regulate or to apply a high degree of regulation or governance of these types of products. In terms of Guernsey, the changes to the regulatory system, as I said, is one which is a constant moving feast, and that's very much in light of the desire of both the industry and the regulator and all the practitioners to ensure that we maintain a good regulatory system which is required and requested by our client base and their advisors, and in fact we have constant changes. We're going through a change process at the moment to amend the law so that we can actually continue a registered type of funds, and again there's a high degree of interaction between the regulator and the industry to ensure that it's a perfect, or as perfect as we can have system. It's very important. It's very important not only because it is domiciled in Guernsey, bearing in mind that it is both for Jersey and Guernsey as a Channel Islands stock exchange, but also because it's a great marketing tool to be able to align with the products that we launch on Guernsey. Now, the importance of the CISX has very much grown recently, because not only is it a technical listing where you would tend to find the investment funds being listed or the Eurobond market being listed for tax reasons, but it's also a trading or traded exchange, which means that you can have market makers here and you can actually use a CISX as a primary listing for the purposes of trading. So it has been a great financial institution, a great tool, and a great feather in our cap, which is, we've been able to take the elements of the CISX, for example, the recognised status with the FSA, with HMRC, with the SEC, with the IRC and all the others, which has meant that from a marketability point of view and also from a fiscal point of view, we've been able to wrap around the Guernsey shares the tax advantages that we, but not certain other exchanges, have.